Traveling to Consciousness, exploring spiritual journeys to find answers in uncertainty.
What is up, conscious monkeys? Welcome back to another episode of Traveling to Consciousness. As always, I'm your host, Clayton Cuteri, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year. We have made it into 2025. If you know anything about master numbers, it's a 9, which gets a little bit spiritual here. Numerology, vortex mathematics. But basically, you add up the numbers. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 equals 9. 9s are very powerful, according to Nikola Tesla and vortex mathematics. We're not going to get too deep into that in this podcast. That's for a whole another podcast. But just know that we have entered a very, very wild year, and I am excited to see what happens. Time seems to be moving so quickly, and yeah, we just have so much to discuss, so much that it's going to be exciting. That's all I really can know for sure, is that it's going to be exciting, and hopefully you guys are going to be able to help us make it exciting as well. So, first off, I think we're going to jump into just kind of going over the headlines of what has been happening over the last 2 weeks. Headlines that I feel like they are important or newsworthy, and I'll give you some opinions of them as we're going through it, because I think that's just super important. So first of all, Happy New Year. Maybe we'll get into some New Year's resolutions at the end of this, my opinion on them, and how we can move forward. So let's start off with some stuff that I don't know if you guys have seen yet, but President-elect and former president and president-to-be Donald Trump has made comments about wanting to purchase Panama, Greenland, and Canada, which I think is very interesting. I think that's actually a very interesting move. I'm interested in it. I don't think it's space right now for me to explain everything that I believe regarding that, but I think I support that. If, they're not forced, it's completely voluntary, it's what the people of those countries desire and want, I think that'd be very interesting for America to expand. It's been a while since we had a addition to our beloved United States. And names are important, right? So united. Let's become united. Let's become one. Let's become unified. So generally speaking, I think I support that. You could probably get into a little bit more detail of whether it's good, whether it's bad. There's probably a whole bunch of nuances, but face value, I'm down for it. I think we all do need to become unified. We all need to come together. Because when we break this down and we look at it from a place of war, who would we go to war with? There would be theoretically, no more war if we're all just one country and we all chose to become one. We chose to come together. The spiritual nature within me feels like that's a part of the path in achieving and restoring Dharma, protecting nature, stopping the killing of innocent people, stopping these brutal genocides that we see going on across the world, is that we all voluntarily decide to come together. So I'm down for it. If Panama, Greenland, Canada, they want to join, Mexico wants to join, let's do it. I think that's actually a good snowball effect for us to pursue at some point in time. I guess right now is the time to pursue it. And speaking of war, and why this is important, is that Ukraine, the president, air quotes, because, well, we'll come back to that. President Zelensky begged, I don't know if you saw this video, this was a couple weeks ago. Again, this is old news, but important news. Begged the U.S. for more money and even asked it for it to be loaned to them. So all this money that we've just been handing over to Ukraine, they've not needed to give it back to us. And so in this video, Zelensky begged the U.S., our government, for your money to be sent to them because they're financially hurting and they want to kill more innocent people. And he asked for it to be loaned to them, so like that they would eventually pay it back, which I don't know how you would do that, but banks love that. Banks love the idea of loaning because then they can charge interest and more money. So I'm sure the banks would be all in on that. But I think this also highlights, and I think whenever we saw the Assad regime get toppled in Iran, that also highlighted that these governments that are going to war are in financial struggle. They are financially crippled, which I guess is good. But the issue that arises is that all this money that is being sent to Ukraine is getting printed out of thin air, which causes inflation, which causes your dollar to be spent to be able to purchase less. And you'll see that's what's going to happen. And we're on the brink of it, the more money they send. And as a matter of fact, I believe there was a recent announcement by the Biden administration. So about a week or two after the begging of President Zelensky, apparently Biden announced that they would send another $2.5 billion in weapons for Ukraine. Now, I don't know how he has the jurisdiction to do that because the Congress has the power of the purse, but he's claiming that he's doing it. So there you have it. Next up, we have, speaking about our homeland and how our president is not caring, our government is not caring for any of our people in the homeland. We have the rate of homelessness, which has raised 18% in America in the last year. 18%. Last year, we were around 560,000 people, and now we are up to 770,000 people counted to be homeless. So all this to say that the billions of dollars that are being spent in California and federal taxpayer dollars is completely being wasted. And as a matter of fact, they're creating more of it. And I'm not saying that that individual money that's being spent on it is creating it. It's really a bigger thing than that. I mean, homelessness is also being created by all this money that we're sending overseas because they're artificially increasing the dollar by they're decreasing the value of the dollar, but they're artificially creating new dollars. And by doing so, it makes it so much harder for the people at the bottom rungs of society to hold on. And so by this senseless printing of money that kills innocent people, more people will become homeless because of it. And this is proof. It raised 18% in the last year. And over the last 2 years, inflation has been out of control. Technically in the last 4 years, but regardless, the point is that we are creating more and more homeless people with the ridiculous ideology of the people in power, the ridiculous demonic nature of wanting to give money to kill innocent people in foreign countries. An ideology that many people do not agree with. Most people do not agree with. I think 80% of people think we should stop funding wars in foreign countries. Yet, our Congress and our presidents, Democrats and Republicans, believe that this is what's best. And this is also why it's so important for us to get behind the American Congress Party, for us to join, to come together, to be unified around the topics that we actually care about, common sense issues, free non-chemical food, free medication, free education, upgraded education. Our education system's in shambles, absolute shambles. I talk to teachers every day, and the things that I hear about the state of the teaching and things that are being taught and the kids, and it's inhumane at a certain level. It goes against the core nature of who we are as humans and individuals. And so that's a part of it. So I'm kind of going into this to say that let's get involved. Reach out. Send an email to Clayton@AmericanCongressParty.com and get involved. We can use your help. We need to raise awareness. That's the number one thing. So however you can raise awareness, whether it's sharing this podcast, whether it's having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conversations this week with people about the American Congress Party, that's how we grow. That's how we save the world. That's how we restore peace and balance. That's how we put the Americans back in control of this country. Because American citizens are not the ones controlling the United States government right now. And that's a big, big problem. Speaking of problems, there's been a whole debate over the H-1B visa race recently. People from the names of like Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Patrick Bet-David, everyone's weighing in on it. Now, personally, I have not done an extensive research or understanding of it at this point. Again, coming off of holidays, spending time with friends and family. But there's two things, and again, this kind of goes into what I briefly discussed about earlier, is that there's two things that really stick out to me in this conversation. The first one, and quite frankly, the most important one, is that other countries, they are more educated. Their students are more educated than our own. Because people are arguing that they need to bring in educated individuals from other countries. Okay. Why are they more educated? What is it that we've done in our country over the last 50 to 100 years that has completely destroyed our ability to think as individuals, to be intelligent, to create great things, to be powerful? The knowledge has not been taught, and it certainly has not been transformed into wisdom for these kids. It's something I've had to learn on my own. It's something that has been completely destroyed by the idea of Common Core and standardized testing. It's not intelligence. Our education system does not breed intelligence or knowledge. We have to fix that. And that's really the other issue of this H-1B visa, in my opinion, is the intelligence level. We have to fix and upgrade our education system. We can't just keep importing people from other countries and expecting that to be a solution, because it definitely hurts the American citizens. Again, it makes it more difficult for them to get jobs and creates more of a strain on the American family. And again, I'm all for people immigrating to America. I think it's great. I think it goes back to our beginning conversation, is that our country's so great. Well, if people want to join, if countries want to join, it seems like this national beacon of hope and light in the world, which is great. Maybe there is a reason that we should bring in more states into our fold, into our country, expand. And then in recent news, more recent news within the last week, our U.S. Treasury Department, speaking of money, was hacked by China. And it seems like they got some important information, some important documents. And I saw that one representative, who's a chairman of the House China Select Committee, I'm not really sure all that they do, but he said, quote, "The latest intrusion should not come as a surprise. For far too long, the CCP has paid no real price for its increasingly aggressive intrusions into our homeland and networks." And he's right. Problem is that the souls of our congressmen and women are up for sale. Now, I don't know this representative, John Molinar from Michigan, but him putting this quote out there: "The CCP has paid no real price for its increasingly aggressive intrusions." I hope he's not talking about his personal pockets. I don't know him. I'm not saying that he is. I am merely pointing out that I hope he's not. Because it is the American citizens who have paid far too much for far too long from this. And the reason that it goes on is because the people in power within our own country allow it to go on. They should pay. There should be reparations, if you want to call it that. There should be a fine on them. There should be imposed some sort of penalty for doing such a thing. We should charge them money for it. Heck, that we owe them money. We should just say, okay, we're not paying that money. That loan's canceled. But the problem is that many of our congressmen and women are in their pockets. So we need people outside of the Democrats and Republicans to become congressmen, congresswomen, president. We need those people to be in positions of power if we wish to change this. We wish to make a difference. And speaking of leaks, I got an update that U.S. intelligence communities who had supporting evidence that COVID was a leak from the Wuhan lab as the origin of the virus were suppressed. The Biden administration didn't want to hear anything of it. There were communities that were kicked out of the conversation. Anyone essentially who believed in it were just not invited. They weren't invited to have the conversation. I mean, Wuhan lab, it leaking from the lab in Wuhan, I think makes the most sense to me. Again, I don't have deep knowledge of this, but the fact remains that they were suppressed. If you're president, why aren't you trying to learn every possible avenue? Is there a narrative that you're trying to avoid? Why avoid the conversation? Why suppress someone with an alternative idea of what maybe occurred? Especially when you have virologists explaining that it jumping from animal to animal doesn't make sense. I have guesses, but they're just guesses. And those are questions I would say for you to answer. Another big thing that's actually been happening for about the last 3-4 days that I've seen, it's called FOGVID-24. So there's this poisonous fog essentially that was going through the, I think, Netherlands. And then I just saw today that it appeared in Florida. People making videos about how they were feeling nauseous, respiratory issues. They talked about how their filters have been filled up and they need to replace filters very quickly because of this. So I don't know what to make of it. Weather modification has been in the works on this planet for a very long time. I'm not going to sit here and claim that it's them, but there could be a correlation. I hope they're not poisoning our own people. I really hope not. Who knows? Again, I don't have all the answers, but just filling you guys in at this point on what's going on. Also this morning, Puerto Rico is without power, in case you didn't see this. They're without power, and they're doing everything they can, essentially, to revamp their stuff, to get their power back online. It's kind of an unfortunate time, especially whenever we're supposed to be with friends, with families. We're supposed to be, celebrating the new year. So this power outage is quite timely. It's unfortunate. But that's basically everything I've got for you guys. I'm going to tell you guys that I appreciate you. Happy New Year. That was kind of the news of the last 2 weeks. I know I'll come back with you guys and get you some more weekly stuff. Monday we'll have another episode. Get that out to you guys. We'll have a good time. We'll enjoy it. Yeah, I appreciate you all for listening. Also, so maybe I'm actually going to release this on the 1st of January. I'm going to release this tomorrow. Also, on Wednesdays, we have the live meditations. I go live with Miss Shelby Moore at 8 p.m. Eastern time on IG Live. You can find it at my Instagram at Clayton Cuteri or at _Shelby Moore _ Moore is spelled Moore. And this week we're talking about calmness. So if you're listening to this, check it out on our Instagram. I know in the future we're going to put this all behind a paywall. So if you're on the ground floor, if you're hearing about it right now, all of our conversations are still up on Instagram. So go check them out. Very powerful, very important stuff. And honestly, it's very unscripted. And so I learn a lot as we go through it. And so highly, highly recommend you guys go check that out. And so with that being said, I appreciate you all. And I will see you all in the 6th dimension.